All right, welcome to tonight's team call. All right, Erin, you just hopped on. I can see you. Hopefully, you can hear us and
I
see
am.
us. Up there you are. Awesome. All right, well, we just got started and just started this recording. I'm so excited about this call tonight and about our guests that we have this evening. Amazing stylists from our team, Bonnie and Erin, who are going to share some of their top tips all around sealing the deal on sponsoring. And I just cannot wait for you to hear from them. They both have been stylists for a little while and have different stories with their sponsoring backgrounds. So let's just go ahead and dive right in. And I think before we dive right in, just the purpose behind this call and the meaning of what we're talking about tonight is really like, what do you do after you've shared the opportunity with people, you have invited them to a Meet Stella and Dot, you've shared the webinar, you've shared the opportunity brochure, and now what do you do next? How do you follow up? How do you work through her questions with her and seal the deal to grow your team and grow your income and your business? So let's go ahead and dive right in. And Erin, I would want to chat with you first. So I'm so excited to highlight you. You have just sponsored your first stylist. Congratulations. We are so pumped for you. And you've been a stylist for a little while and just sponsored for the first time. You also just attended Hoopla and we had so much fun hanging out there. So tell us, what shifted to make you decide to sponsor and share our opportunity?
I think actually just being at Hoopla and just like being around people. I don't haven't done much here because I'm not like I don't really have anyone from the team here. So I feel like that was like the first opportunity to like meet people that were like welcoming and just like have a good time. And I think like obviously like exuded that energy. I didn't really have to say as much. Whereas, I feel like people can feel things versus like you can tell people all you want to tell them, but they can feel energy if it's good or bad. So I think like me just being a little bit more sure, whereas before I wasn't, because I didn't really know.
Totally. That's a really good point. So coming to Hoopla, obviously for you, was a really big game changer. You also had an amazing trunk show last month too, where you really just completely dove back in. So that was really cool. But yeah, I think that's a really good point. So not only did you get to like absorb the energy of our team and bring that home with you at Hoopla, but it sounds like it also like built your confidence around Stella and Dot, around being a stylist, and you decided, you wanted to share that with other women. So that's really cool. So follow-up question to that is, how did you do it? What steps did you take to have someone sign up as a stylist on your team?
I would just say, well, it was my cousin and she attended like one party and I think she was like me continuing to like still doing it maybe like a year later like was probably like helpful, like at first I feel like I was probably hesitant, so like I might have like people feel that and like now I wasn't as hesitant, so I think that helped. So it was just like still doing it, like being I guess like consistent, I guess, even though I wasn't that consistent because I didn't have a ton of time, but so I think that probably helped.
Yeah, so she was able to see like, okay, this isn't just a flash in the pan. You're still sticking around with this whole Stella and Dot thing. And I mean, I think that's a good point too. Okay, this is your cousin who decided to sign up with you. So I think that's a good realization that for all of us, we might have people that are in our lives, that have been in our lives, that could be great stylists that would want to do this with us, right? So how did you like go about that conversation? Was she the only person that you talked to? Did you talk about the opportunity with multiple people? Did she have questions about it? Did she just, join at the drop of the hat? How did that go?
I think she did have questions about it as well as like, I think she just liked a lot of stuff. She came to like my style session and she was like, oh my God, I don't know what to get. I like this, 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 and this. And I was like, then just be a stylist. I was like, then you can have it all. And so
She was probably like, wait, what?
So I do share the opportunity, like when I have the opportunity to share the opportunity. But like I said, I work from home, so I'm not around a lot of people. But if like it does come up in conversation, I always share the opportunity. So I did share it with her initially. And then I think just like the fact that I was doing it and she liked the product, I think that was like probably why she wanted to do it. And I said, and just knowing that it's not like super stressful, like you can do what you want with it. And I just kind of put it to her that way. I was like, even, if you get a discount, you like the product and you can get a discount, do it for that, or do it, you never know what come for you. Like,
Totally.
so I like more of like, it's your thing, do what you want with it. And I think that made her like less hesitant because she didn't feel pressure in any way.
Yeah, so you just kept it really simple. I loved even those words that you just said of like, you love it all, you should do this with me. Like you kept it really simple. And there's also just that casual confidence with that too, that I bet she probably was almost, like I said, like, wait, what? Like I could do this too. And people don't really know how it works. So you kept it really simple, and then, no pressure of like letting her make it what she wants. So that's awesome. So congrats, lady, on sponsoring your first stylist. Can't wait to see her get off to a strong start. And I see associate stylist in your future. So that would be pretty exciting. All right, let's bump it on over to Bonnie. And so Bonnie, you have always been a strong sponsor on our team from the get-go of when you joined as a stylist. So you've always been sharing the opportunity. Why? Why has that always been something that you've included in the way that you run your business and have continued to as well?
Well, I mean, it's very cheesy, but it's more fun with a friend. And that's like, to me, the best part of Stella & Dot is the other people in Stella & Dot. And I love all the people on our larger team that I get to see at Hoopla, and Eric can attest to this. Like, one of my favorite things is our like mini group chat. And it's, I use it as a way to disseminate information to the team who may not be as, plugged in to the buzz all the time. So like I can share that information, but it turns into like a really fun and friendly chat. And so like, I love that. I love being connected to all these women. Like, this week we were talking about Liz Martin's new haircut and like whether or not she should get bangs, and it had nothing to do with Stella & Dot, but it was like this cool, fun group of friends that wouldn't exist otherwise. And all the highs and, lows even, and, all the cool things about Stella & Dot are more fun when you have a group of people to do it with.
Totally. And I mean, going off of that same idea, I would imagine that when you have that fun group like that, when you're experiencing a bump in the road of your business and maybe feeling like, oh, like what's next, or how do I get past this? I would guess that having that group kind of keeps you pulling back in of like why you want to keep involved. Is that true?
Do you mean like for me personally or just in general?
Yeah, for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it definitely holds me accountable as a sponsor. I want to be at least as active as the other people on my team at the bare minimum. But I want to be as engaged as possible with them, both in Stella & Dot and in their personal lives. And it definitely keeps, I think everybody on our team, it's hard to disengage when you've got all these people who you're talking to all the time.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Okay, so you love the community, the friendships, and the fun that come along with sponsoring, and that it holds you up to a higher bar for your personal business. I think that's really cool. So when you're thinking about sharing the opportunity, both when you were just getting started, if you can kind of reflect back, and then also ongoing, who do you reach out to?
So when you are a new stylist, I definitely think you should follow the home office model of reaching out to everybody, because you really don't know hosting, sponsoring, shopping, like who is going to be interested in your business, because you haven't shared it with anyone yet. So you really should share with everybody. As you become, more experienced, and I think everybody has a different style for their Stella & Dot business in general, and you can kind of develop your own best practices for sharing the opportunity. And so for me, I sponsored a lot of people when I was, I almost said when I was younger, when I was newer.
Well, technically you were also young.
That's true. Who I really worked hard to basically talk into the opportunity. And then it turned into me having to talk them into every step of the way. And it wasn't fun for them or me. And so over time, I've developed a slightly more strategic approach that is sort of organically grown for me. But I think, so for me, I network a lot with like people who have nothing to do with Stella and Dot. So I really put myself out there to meet new people. And I really listen carefully when I'm talking to people, whether they're new people I don't know or they're friends or people at Pure Barre or whatever. So like I'm always listening for women who say anything that implies they're looking for a new way to make money, or they're looking for a new hobby or a way to meet other women, anything along the lines of that Stella and Dot can fill. I'm always listening for that. And then I'm like, okay, that's my strategy. So like, that's a person I really want to reach out to. And I really actually have something special to offer them that feels authentic and not just like, I'm offering this to everybody on the street, handing out pamphlets like outside of a Target, you know? Because I also think that turns people off too. Like it doesn't feel special when they hear you offering it to literally everyone in their presence. It feels like, you know, like a flyer you don't want. So, you know, it's a fine line of like reaching out to a lot of people and strategically focusing your energy on people you think would really enjoy it or benefit from it in some way. But you really have to be like paying attention to those cues, because no one's going to come out and say, I'm looking for a direct sales company to join. I wonder which one I should. So like, you really have to be paying attention. And, you know, the other place that is like a no-brainer is really great customers and hostesses. Like you should always be talking to those people. Just like Erin said, you want it all, you should be a stylist. So I always keep in mind people who have, you know, made large purchases or they have a really long wish list, things like that. And then of course, new people at trunk shows who are showing me that same thing. Like, oh my gosh, I want everything. I'm definitely going to like spend a little extra energy talking to those people.
Yeah, I think those are great tips. Do you think that, you know, you said that when you first started and you feel like maybe you pulled people along that weren't fully invested and learned through that process, like how to hone who might be interested a little bit better. Do you feel like you kind of needed to go through that in order to like sharpen your eye for sponsoring, so to speak?
Totally, because like it goes back to like listening to what people are really telling you versus like what they're saying, because those people were also telling me they didn't really want to do it.
Yeah.
or they had, you know, whatever was the cause of them not really being invested. And so sometimes somebody tells you they're not interested, but like I'm hearing things that tell me like I'm going to keep them on my list and maybe reach out again later. And so definitely like, and there's nobody that I ever sponsored who I'm like, oh, I wish I hadn't sponsored them. So,
right.
I mean, there's no like regrets on that point. It's just now, especially like I'm busier now and I also have more people on my team. Like I want to spend my energy helping people who want and need it and not texting somebody who doesn't even want to have their own launch show, let alone call people to book other shows. So, you know, that's kind of where I land on that.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're really listening for people. I love that. Like you're always like on, your radar is always on, listening for a potential why, basically, of why they would want to be a stylist, why they might like this. And then you're also listening when you're having the conversations with people for cues to kind of determine, all right, is it an objection that you could overcome, or is it they're not willing to try, they're not really interested?
Yeah.
And distinguishing between those two things. So I think that's a really great takeaway that someone who maybe hasn't started to sponsor as much could take away from what you've learned and not have to go through, have to go through like learning that. So good takeaway. But I would guess also that, you know, you are still making like those general announcements about the opportunity, not necessarily like
of course,
one by one, like you should be a stylist, you should be a stylist, you should be a stylist, but making sure that everybody's aware, you know, at the show or in your VIP group or what have you, that it's something that they could do if they wanted to.
And I do like, I mean, so the downside of my being strategic is that Lindsay, who just joined, I never talked to her about opportunity because I genuinely did not ever think she would be interested. She responded to me posting on Facebook about it. So after she called me and was like asking me about it, I'm like, wow, I'm really dumb. Like, why didn't I talk to her sooner? So it is not a foolproof strategy. I just want to put that out there, but you know, but people who are interested will, you know, be willing, you know, feel comfortable talking to you if they know you're talking about it all the time, even if you haven't spoken to them about it.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. It's like that two-pronged approach of like generally broadcasting the opportunity so people know that it's an option, and then really listening for those authentic reasons why you would reach out to a specific person. I think that's so smart. Okay, so let's say all of the steps to actually share the opportunity with them have happened. You've, shared a resource with them. I always say that's a great piece of advice, which I, heard from a training from Danielle, is don't be the message, be the messenger. So when you're sharing the opportunity, don't feel like you have to, write down everything about being a stylist and text it to them, or you have to explain everything. That's too complicated, and you're probably going to chase them away, right? So we have our great opportunity brochure. We have informational webinars. I know Jessica Heron is doing an opportunity chat on Facebook on Thursday. So those are all like resources that you can pass along, or even YouTube videos. So you've done that. You've sent it to them. You've said something like, hey, check this out. I'll touch base with you again and see what you think. So what do you do in, the two scenarios which are like, either people respond and they're like, no, thanks, I'm not interested. Or what if they don't even reply at all? How do you handle that scenario?
So, okay, if they actually respond and are like, I don't want to for whatever reason, I don't give a lot of pushback because that's, going back to what I said before about like listening to what they're saying. If they're really saying like, I don't have time because my kids have too many after school activities, let's say. What they're saying is, I don't want to do any other things besides what I'm already doing. And so, if I feel like that's really how they feel, then I'm not going to give them a ton of pushback. And I always give them an out that makes the conversation feel comfortable the next time I want to text them back about, the BOGO necklace deal or whatever. So I always make sure that I'm not cutting people off, even if they're just not interested. And that goes for like hosting too, because some people are just not interested in hosting either. But I don't want them to feel like, okay, I made it weird and now you don't want to shop with me either. So I don't give a lot of pushback, but I am always listening. So if they give me, and I don't want to get too into this because I know the next one's objections, but if they give me an objection that's not like a shutdown, then that's when I go into like overcoming objections. But it really comes down to listening to what they're saying. And also, even if they're giving an objection that I know, like I know you can find time, like you can do this and this. If they're saying it in a way that like I don't want to, so I'm not going to, that's where it's like, well, I don't want to be calling you every day, begging you to pick up your phone while you're on the way to swim practice or whatever. So that's where I sort of decide, like, I read the room and decide, like, is this worth my time to go past this point with them?
Okay, so let's do a specific example. Because like you said, we are going to chat about objections in a second. Let's say that their answer is like, no, thank you, I'm not interested in taking on anything.
Okay, so
but
I would say
somebody, let's say hypothetically, like they've shopped with you, they like the product, that's why you're reaching out to them, and they're like, no, thanks, that's not for me.
So as far as, I would say, like, okay, if it's somebody I don't know that well and I don't have enough information to try to overcome that very general objection that doesn't give me anything to work with, then I would just say, that's cool, that's fine, I totally get it, we're all busy, blah, blah, blah. But I just want you to know, I really think you're like so stylish and fun and everything, you love the product. I really think you would be a good stylist. So I want you to keep it in mind, and I'll reach out to you again the next time we have a sponsoring special, or, whenever. So I'm giving myself permission to talk to them about it again, but I'm also giving them permission to not feel like I'm mad or we can't talk now because I made it weird or whatever. And then I do circle back to people periodically, especially if I really think that they would really make a good stylist. And a good example would be Liz Martin was trying to sponsor a great repeat hostess and customer who she knows would be great this month. She is having her daughter is having some health problems. So it's just not a good time. She's genuinely busy with things that are more important to her than a little, side income. But that situation will hopefully change in the near future. And so Liz just let her know, like, I will circle back when it's a better time. And her, potential was like happy with that resolution to their conversation. She is interested, just not right now. So, and then, what I do is I make a note in my calendar, like 2 or 3 months in the future at the beginning of the month, like on the to-do list page, to call that person again and reconnect.
Yeah, that's so smart. And of course, I mean, if it's someone who hasn't hosted yet, obviously you could offer, they could do a show instead too. Mm-hmm. But I love that you're like telling them you're going to reach out to them again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because it sets the expectation. I think it also gives them a chance to say, like, actually don't follow up with me again. But rarely, I don't know if I've really ever had that happen. Like, people are usually like appreciative because they do want you to keep them in mind.
And it gives them the permission, because I've had a girl one time was like, I wanted to sign up, but I told you no more than once. And I just felt like stupid changing my mind. Well, I definitely don't want anyone to feel stupid changing their mind. So I'm giving them the opportunity, like, to know that I expect you to change your mind later and I'm going to talk to you about it. So.
Yeah, I know. I even like to say sometimes, like, well, if you ever change your mind, I would be over the moon excited and would love to have you on our team.
Yeah,
so, like, they know the doors are always open. Okay, so how about some common objections? Again, we can keep this pretty quick, but what are some of those objections that you hear and how do you overcome them? So this is where I think this is like really the meat of like sealing the deal.
Mm-hmm. So the big one is, I don't know enough people. I don't know anybody I can sell to. Now, this is my personal experience I'm using, but any of you who want to borrow from my story, you're welcome to. I move every 2 years. I don't know anyone when I move, and I just go out and meet people. And since the time I started with Stella & Dot, I've used it as an excuse to meet people. So when people say, like, oh, I don't really know anybody, I don't really have any friends, I'm like, well, then this is perfect for you, because I have really grown my network and met so many great friends by doing this that I wouldn't have done if I hadn't had this excuse to get out there. So you use Stella & Dot as a solution to that problem, rather than like, oh, we can figure it out. Like, we'll work it out later. And
I love how that also, like, you're not trying to like disagree with them. You're not trying to be like, oh no, you're wrong. You're like, oh, that's great. You don't know a lot of people. Like, you can still be successful even if that's how you feel your reality is.
Mm-hmm. And honestly, I would also tell them too, like, a lot of my best clients don't live near me, have never shopped with me in person before. So that's really not, somebody somewhere, even if they don't live in your, in your town. The other big one is that I've found here in San Diego, which I don't know if this is like a local thing, because people are really house poor here. Because it's so expensive to live here, is that, like, my friends don't have any money and I don't want to invite them over for a show, or like, I won't be able to sell to them because they don't have any money. So for that one's a tough one, because it's hard to overcome it without just being like, you're wrong. So this is what I struggle with the most, to be honest. But I just tell people, like, half the line's under $50. Everybody needs to buy gifts now and then, especially this time of year. Like, just try it for the holidays and see how it goes. And then also, like, let your friends decide what they want to spend their money on, and don't just presume like that you'll be a failure because of your friends and their lack of support of you. So, but I'll admit that one's a hard one, because it's the same fear that people have with hosting, is they don't want to like ask anything of their social network.
I think that you handle that really well. The only other thing you could even add is to say oh, my goal is going to be to help you build your business beyond just your friends as fast as possible. Like, I don't sell to just my friends either.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that would be weird.
Exactly. And then there's I don't have any time, which, this one's a tricky one because when you don't have time, it's because you don't want to make time for something. And so, this is where the listening comes into here. Like, are they telling me they don't want to make time for this? Like they want to spend their time in other ways, or are they just not seeing how much time they have? And so that's when I kind of tailor this one to their situation, but I share about how like my most successful time with Stella and Dot was when I had a full-time job. So there was definitely time, in the day, and we have great tech tools that make everything fast and easy for us. Like we can really maximize our time. And then I talk about, there's a million and one examples of other stylists who have their exact situation. They have kids, or because I hear a lot personally, like, well, you don't have any kids, so you have time for that. And I mean, I'm guessing I'm probably in the minority of stylists to not have kids. So, like that's certainly not a handicap. Like plenty of stylists have kids and jobs and whatever. So I kind of tailor that answer to like, what are they looking to hear? And I think it's Danielle in one of Danielle's trainings. She talks about how like when a potential gives you an objection, she wants you to overcome it, and she's wanting you to solve her problem for her. That's when I really like tailor to the situation. Like what are they wanting me to tell them to make them feel better about that? So. And then I also tell them it's flexible and blah, 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 all that stuff that's, in all the words to say. And then the last one that I get a lot too is because like I worked in retail a lot and I work at Stitch Fix. So people always think like, oh, you have like all this experience that's why you can be a stylist, and I don't have that and I can't do it. And I like, so I would talk about like, well, there's tons of training, but actually you're way more stylish than you think, especially if they're a customer of ours that shops a lot. They already have a ton. They're like, that doesn't even make sense. But I tell them like, we provide everything you need, images, ideas, all that. And I'm going to help you. And I'm going to come to your trunk show, your launch show, and I'm going to help you style people. And it's way easier than you think, because everyone thinks like you do, that they don't have any style and they're just waiting for somebody to give them permission to wear what they want to wear. Like when somebody's like, I don't think I can pull off this statement necklace. They want to, they just want somebody else to tell them that they can. And that's like what the stylist is there for.
For that like affirmation.
Yeah. So
that's a good point.
I always tell them like, you don't need any experience. Most people don't have extensive fashion experience when they become a stylist.
Those are great tips. Yeah. And I think like one little like tool I like to use too, just adding on to everything, all those great tips that you've shared, is like the little formula of if I could, would you? For the too busy one, you could say like, if we could sit down and look at your calendar and see how this could fit in, would you be interested? And that's just kind of that one more little pushback that helps you kind of clarify, is this an objection, or is this that they're trying to figure out a nice way to say no to you and they're just not actually interested?
That's a great tip.
So we're going to get kicked off soon. So we'll try to say this quickly, but just for the final step of it all, you've talked to them, you've chatted them through it. They've had objections, which are totally normal, by the I always say, I think it would be weird if someone had no objections at all and just were like, yeah, I'm going to sign up. I'd be like, that's weird.
Don't you want to hear more?
Yeah. So you've chatted through this with them. How do you actually seal the deal? Like, how do you go from like, okay, cool, and then avoid having it just like, they just like go off into like la la land? How do you actually get them to go ahead and sign up?
So the fortune's in the follow-up, as always with everything. But I really, at that point, like if it's with the seal the deal point, they know everything. They know like if they want to sign up or not. I really move into this place of making it feel really exclusive. Like I want to do this with you specifically, not just anyone who's willing to sign up and spend $199. So that inclusiveness, and that it's like inclusive and exclusive. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm not offering this to everybody, but I want you to be like part of this really great group. And I'm so excited for you to meet everyone else. And like, you're going to love Charlotte, my friend, and like that kind of thing. That really just makes them feel like I don't want to miss out on this like party. Like I got to get into this, and all it's going to take is $199 and little leap of faith. So and just keep it really casual and confident, like Erin said.
Do you like walk through them with signing up on the lounge or anything like that? Or you just sort of tell them how to do it?
I don't, only because I guess I'm very good at sealing the deal, because almost every stylist I've ever sponsored, by the time we get to that point, they're like, oh my God, I'm really excited. I already did it. And I already started. So like, they don't wait for me. So no, typically I don't.
That's awesome. All right. Well, everyone be like Bonnie, be like Erin. Thank you guys so much for sharing your tips. I'll go ahead and post the recording once I have it ready. And if anyone who's watching the recording has any questions, of course, feel free to comment. And I'm sure Erin and Bonnie would be more than happy to answer your questions. But this has been so helpful. Thank you so much for your time and your wisdom and advice.